So you want to pick up a pair of AirPods, but you don't know which version is for you. Let me help you out. There are basically 4 choices. The cheapest option is still the regular wired ones, called the Earpods instead of AirPods. But they are of course pretty much the same thing. Then there are also these 2nd gen AirPods. These are the ones most of us associate with AirPods. They are also easily recognizable due to the longer stems. Moving up the ladder, there is the AirPod 3rd gens. And then finally, the Airpods Pro 2nd gens. Now, as far as the prices go, the wired ones are around 30 USD, the Airpods 2nd gen are around 129, the 3rd gen pods go for 169, and the Airpods Pro 2nd gen go for around 225 to 250 USD. Let's first go over the features and the differences. After that, we'll go more in depth and you can skip over those subjects as you see fit. So with the wired ones, you get an excellent quality of sound. These won't underperform at all compared to the AirPods 2nd gen, and even to the 3rd gens to some extent. Most really forget about these, and that's because we're all tired of having tangled cables, but they should really be considered if you're on a budget. They have physical volume buttons, a good mic, and also a pause button. They come in Lightning connection, but also USB-C. So they are available for the latest iPhones. These 2nd gens are basically its bigger brother, the wireless version. Here you don't have any physical buttons, but you can tap on the AirPod itself. There's only a double tap for each side though, which you can set yourself to whatever you prefer. So let's say left double tap can be set to pause and the right one can be set to next song. But you could also use left as previous song and take out one AirPod to pause. Since when you do that, they will pause automatically. The volume is still operated on the iPhone. On the charging case, there is an LED on the inside, which will show battery percentage of the AirPods if they are inside and if they're not, of the case itself. Something else which is universal with all of these is that the exact battery percentage can be seen on the iPhone when the AirPods are close by. The 2nd gens make use of Bluetooth 5.0, but more on that later. The charging case is charged via the included Lightning to USB-A cable. Now on paper it has around 5 hours on one charge with 24 hours as backup in the case itself. The case is also made according to the long stems, meaning it's a vertical design. Compare that to the 3rd gens, which have a horizontal case, which is around the same size, just different orientation. The 3rd gens have a completely different design. The pod itself is bigger than the 2nd gen and also angled a little differently. And where with these 2nd gens you would only have the choice of double tapping the AirPod itself, here it features a so-called force sensor on the stem, which acts as a space where you can tap to give commands. Pause is one tap on the sensor, play next is a double tap, triple tap to go to the previous song, or press and hold to activate Siri. There is still no way of lowering or increasing the volume on the AirPod itself, so you would still need to use your iPhone for that. For this model AirPod, you would have the choice of buying it with MagSafe or without. If you are buying it without, you can only charge using a Lightning cable, and a USB-C to Lightning cable is included with your purchase. The 3rd gens have access to spatial audio, which is a good upgrade. You will experience all types of background effects and details to the song you're listening to, where you would otherwise not even notice. It's definitely an enrichment of the listening experience, a little like good headphones will. It also has an LED on the front instead of in the case, which makes it easier to see at a glance, but also to get confirmation that it's charging using wireless. Now on paper, it has 6 hours of battery per charge with a 30-hour backup in the case. These are also IPX4 certified, meaning they are sweat and water resistant, not proof. The 3rd gens make use of Bluetooth 5.0. Lastly, the Airpods Pro 2nd gen. These are basically the same model as the third gens, but with a silicone tip at the end. So it's an in-ear AirPod instead of the mostly half-in-ear versions. This is usually better for bass, as the seal in the ear is also better. It also cuts out noise, but Apple has active noise cancellation as well. Here you can choose 4 presets: off, transparency, adaptive, and noise cancellation. Transparency lets in outside noise that comes in via the outward-facing microphone. It's basically what the cameras do on the Vision Pro. They mimic the outside and give you the digital version. Now, because it's already digital, they can also turn the outside noise off completely, countering all sounds that come in. They call that active noise cancellation. And if you want a mix between the outside noise and silence, you will find most at ease with adaptive mode, which will ensure important sounds come through and filters out less important ones. So you could still have conversations or hear traffic coming. As an extra upgrade, the so-called force sensor on the third gens make a return here, but now they are called touch control, simply because they are now also touch sensitive, meaning you can swipe up and down to increase or decrease volume. This works in a set of 1. So one swipe is basically as if you turn the volume on the physical iPhone buttons down 1 time. The battery performance stays the same. So up to 6 hours of battery per charge and up to 30 hours of backup charge. Keep in mind that these are still the on-paper stats though. And there's always a cable included with your purchase, no matter which version you choose. These things are rated up to IP54, meaning dust, sweat, and water resistant, but not proof. But it's still an upgrade compared to the third gens. Lastly, the Pros have Bluetooth 5.3, a new technology that is more power efficient. Now, since we got the specs out of the way, I want to answer specific questions regarding the differences. First up, can you really notice the sound quality difference, and what did you notice? Now, like I said, the Wired Earpods are already really good. And I did a lot of testing, but none of this is scientific or anything. It's just my opinion. I've already talked enough about specs, so now it's personal experiences. So from what I could hear, there is no difference between the wired ones and the second gen AirPods. So as far as the sound goes, you don't get these second gens because of their superior sound. You get those because of the convenience of going wireless. The upgrade from the second gens to the third gens is significant. You will notice an upgrade, and this spatial audio improves your experience even though you will never miss it if you haven't tried it. As far as the sound goes, the third gens have a better bass, but maybe also a tiny bit crispier sound. But that's a tiny upgrade. It's mostly the bass which you will notice. Then comparing those to the AirPod Pro second gens, you will of course appreciate the noise cancellation, which will increase the experience a ton. It's a massive difference, because even if you don't have any music on, you can still really relax and cut out the noise. But of course, music is more enjoyable too if you cannot hear the noise around you. As far as the sound differences, the step up to the Pros is once again a little crispier, and because of that acoustic seal, maybe even a little bassier than the third gens. But I think where the upgrade from the second gens to the third gens was like a 40% increase in bass, here with the Pros, it's maybe like 15% from the third gens. Second question, what are your experiences using the controls on the AirPods? So my answer depends on which model we're talking. On the second gens, I like the fact that you can tap on the outside, and that's that. Now, there's of course a negative to that too, being that you basically create a sound that goes directly into your ear canal, which can be quite annoying. I didn't feel it was as annoying as something like the physical button on the earbuds, like the Raycon earbuds for example. To press that button created a straight up painful sound. On the second gens, it's more of an annoyance. Now on the third gens, the stems are shorter and closer to the cheek. Therefore, the force sensor is a little finicky to use, as it's positioned facing forward and not on the outside. you will always use your thumb on the back side of the AirPod to use that force sensor. And that's exactly the reason why they didn't put it on the outside, because even if you tap slightly, it will push out the AirPod out of your ears. And you cannot support it with your thumb if it was placed on the outside. The Pros have that touch control, but it only recognizes touch with a volume swipe. So you would still have that same issue with the force sensor or touch sensor like with the 3rd gens. The AirPod Pros aren't as close to your cheek though, since it has that silicone tip, it will sort of hang out there a little more, making it easier to operate the controls. Third question, are the most expensive AirPods Pro 2nd gen worth it? My answer to that would be absolutely. They are pretty expensive, but this really feels like the Apple experience I get with buying a new iPhone. The other ones, now of course relatively speaking, don't have that as much, mostly due to having access to all of the features. Whereas with the 3rd gens, I feel like I'm still missing out. Now I am one of those people that hates in-ear tips for off-brand earbuds. I've tried quite a few and almost every time they fell out of my ear, I got an uncomfortable feeling after like 10 minutes and were generally not a better experience than the half in-ear versions. So if you can relate to that story, you will most likely enjoy the AirPods Pro 2nd gen. But I must say, if you talk a lot while having these on, and especially if you laugh a lot, you will notice they fall out anyway. The AirPods Pro come with 3 extra sizes along with the standard size. Now, for me though, the regular ones fit perfect. And it was a very nice experience to finally have an in-ear solution that fits well. Last question, what are your thoughts on the cases? I think they are all fine. The size differences aren't all that big, and they all look very good with that white glossy finish. They are absolute fingerprint magnets though. I would absolutely go for a matte version if they would ever sell that. It will get very smudgy over time and thus less grippy. I will now make a video on which case is the best for the AirPods, so stay tuned for that. Now, with the risk of sounding like your typical reviewer, which I always hated because not everyone has access to all AirPods or the best/most expensive phone, let me try to give you advice based on your situation. If you hate in-ear AirPods/earbuds, you will most likely still enjoy the AirPods Pro. So that shouldn't be a deciding factor. Budget is of course the biggest. The cheapest at only $30 are the wired ones. And those are the biggest value in this entire video. They already sound amazing, but I'm guessing you didn't click on this video for those. So then it becomes a battle for which I think will last the longest. Now, because Apple will go through with their USB-C change and your latest iPhone already has USB-C 2, the AirPods Pros are the most future-proof. But like I already mentioned, the sound quality isn't night and day for me. Even the 2nd gens perform really well. I really enjoy those longer stems too, as the true AirPod look. So then I would just decide whether or not I care about the spatial audio on the 3rd gens, and if not, go for the 2nd gens, which are the cheapest wireless option. If you do though, the $40 extra is well spent, and it will still save you around $80 compared to the AirPods Pro 2nd gen. If you have a little patience, most likely we'll see a refresh for the 3rd gens, making those USB-C as well. And then the choice should be very easy, since the 3rd gens are already best of both worlds.